Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today we're taking a look at the brand new Masters of the Universe Masterverse Princess of Power, Hordak. Now, Hordak is an interesting character because he's not someone who's just specifically intrinsically from the Princess of Power series. He debuted in Masters of the Universe first. And then, for whatever reason, they decided he would be the main villain of She-Ra's show, Princess of Power. So this is a figure that could have just as easily been part of a regular Masters of the Universe lineup, because he did have a nearly identical appearance in both cartoons. So I can see him having value to both She-Ra and He-Man fans. That being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Hordak's packaging, then we'll open it up. We'll get a really good look at the figure, we'll check out his bevy of accessories, and we'll swap them out and do all sorts of fun poses and stuff. Naturally, I'll be doing plenty of group shots and comparisons today, and then at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So Hordak comes in your large, deluxe-size Masterverse packaging. Get your Masterverse logo up here on the top, get your Princess of Power logo, and then you get his name. We also get our 40th anniversary sticker. Then we get this big old window with a cool, castle wall background behind him. We get the Hordak figure, who comes with a cannon arm attached. He also has a big soft goods cape flowing behind him, and he gets all these really cool accessories. He gets a fire blast effect for the cannon. He gets an optional claw attachment, similar to Trapjaw. And then he gets a regular arm to swap the cannon arm out with, since Hordak is a bit of a shape-shifting character and can turn parts of his body, or sometimes even his whole body, into technological instruments. So he gets the regular arm with some optional hands here. He gets a shield that is very reminiscent of the little red gargoyle thing that the old Vintage and the Origins Hordak come with, which honestly kind of makes me sad he didn't get the gargoyle, but I don't think it was anything that was ever actually shown in the cartoon, so kind of get it. And then he also gets a new take on the old Horde crossbow. Now, if you've seen reviews I've done of the Origins Horde characters, you know I'm not a fan of that crossbow design. It's just, to me, a really useless accessory and doesn't do anything that a crossbow would do. The head of it just kind of juts forward a bit. It's almost like a battering ram. Here, they took that base design and they put this energy bolt thing going through it. So now it looks like it can actually fire things. So this I like a lot more than what the Vintage line and then, Origins did with that whole concept, which I thought was just kind of silly overall. So now if we go ahead and we turn him to this side, we get, expectedly, his name in a bigger font with his title, Ruthless Leader of the Evil Horde. And then on the other side, we get our first bit of artwork. Looking very cool. He's in, I'm not sure where he is. It kind of reminds me of a fighting dojo, though. And he's blasting at somebody with his cannon arm, looking pretty annoyed. And here we have him in his throne room. So I'm guessing this must be the Fright Zone, right? That's probably the Fright Zone as well. So he's in his throne room, and he's got a regular arm now, but he's firing lightning or something from his fingertips. That's kind of cool. We also get to see Leech and Mantenna in the background. And what's interesting is that Leech is shown with just actually having suction cup hands, just regular suction cups for hands, which is not how you would think they'd want to portray him in actual fiction, but okay. Up here in the top corner, we get his name and title again, and then we get some flavor text, and that reads, "Banished from Eternia by his pupil Skeletor, the vile Hordak rules the planet Etheria from the Fright Zone with cruel technology and dark magic." Get that to focus a little better. "This ruthless tyrant delights in the pain and misery of others, even those in his evil horde who are most loyal to him." So, I mean, it's a pretty accurate description. It definitely posits him as a real threat and gives off much more of a MOTU vibe than a Princess of Power vibe. Because, Princess of Power, it was marketed toward a different audience, and the actual evil nature, the real ruthless evil nature of the villains, was kind of toned down a little bit. So I like them describing him in a way that still, reminds us, yes, this is the character from Master of the Universe. He didn't just go soft at some point or just start acting differently for no reason. So I like that. All right, down here at the bottom, we get our cross cells. So we get the deluxe She-Ra figure that I just reviewed previously. Then we get our Netflix CGI He-Man, our new Eternia Zodak, the CGI Skeletor, and then Catra, also from Princess of Power. So you know, they're really starting to delve into new things here with Masterverse. Like first it was all Revelation, then they did the new Eternia stuff, and they had some random odds and ends with like the 40th anniversary He-Man, and now we're getting into not just the new Netflix show, but Princess of Power, which is something that before they revealed it, you know, I would have been surprised that they would actually do in Masterverse because it just has a very different feel to it, you know? All right, so that's the packaging. Overall, very nice looking, some really great artwork as always, and Hordak looks really cool inside of it. But now, we need to go ahead and open this up. Now we get Hordak out of his packaging, so we can see all of his accessories laid out. We get his optional arm here, with 2 additional hands, one for this arm, one for the other. Get his little claw attachment, big fire blast effect. We get his Horde crossbow, and this new shield. So he is pretty fully loaded when it comes to accessories, and I mean, you would want it to be, right, being released as a deluxe figure. So then the base figure here, you know, comes with that mechanical arm with a blaster on the end. This cape, which is just really nice. I think it's made out of the same material as the She-Ra Wavemate. One thing that's pretty cool is that the head does actually move independently of the collar, unlike the Vintage and Origins toys. I always thought that was kind of silly looking on them. So the collar is stationary and part of his outfit like it should be. It's got his universal shoulders, your bicep swivel, your double elbow bend, universal wrists, at least, you know, on the arms that have wrists. The wristband here is a separate piece, as is this little armband. It's a full waist swivel, universal hips, thigh swivel, double knee bend, boot swivel, and universal ankles. So he's got the whole shebang, all that posability you expect from a Masterverse level figure. And he also just looks great. He really does. I'm normally not crazy about Hordak's cartoon coloration. I really do prefer the like black, red, and dark gray with the more skin-toned face of the original toy version than I, you know, do the coloration they came up with for the cartoon. I just think it makes him look more wicked, more vampire-like. But I will say that the sculpting on this guy is so cool, especially on the head there, that I'm really digging the way he looks, even if it is the brighter cartoon colors. Plus, I have a feeling we will eventually get a toy-based Hordak from this mold. I would be really shocked if we don't. And hopefully he'll come with his little gargoyle companion, but we'll see there. From what I can tell, most of his body is just the standard He-Man body, the exception being the boots. Any additional accessories attached. Obviously this arm is its own thing, but you know, you still have a He-Man arm right there. He does have a regular He-Man chest underneath this armor, which is detachable. It'll separate here at the sides. And the armor is actually holding on this collar and the cape. You can see it's like 3 little pegs sticking up there. So if you want to, you know, kind of strip him down, customize him, you can absolutely do that. I will say the collar does limit his head articulation a little bit. Like, it'll move out of the way, but, you know, he can really only do so much with his head with such a high raised collar. So it looks cool, but it does sacrifice some functionality. Just be aware of that. All right, let's go ahead and play around with his arm cannon here. So the first thing I'll do is attach this blast effect. Now, it's not just like a straight 5mm or so peg. It's mushroomed out on the end, and I guess that's to get it to like really stay in there. So you do have to apply a good bit of force to pop it in, but it won't take too much, and then once it's in, it's really solidly in there. And that looks really cool. It's got a whole Mega Man, Mega Buster thing going on. I was honestly kind of surprised again with blast effect, because like that's not a thing they normally include with MOTU stuff. At least, not the characters. Sometimes vehicles, like your Stridor from Origins will get them, but I don't know, is he the first figure to have like actual laser blast effects? I think he might be. So that looks pretty neat already. And then we could go ahead and remove this and pop out and attach this little claw attachment, which it's kind of comically small, and because the barrel of his little cannon thing's already kind of long, it makes his arm look overly extended in a way. So it's not my favorite piece, but I do appreciate it. And, you know, it can rotate and everything. The claws don't move, which is unfortunate. It'd be cool if there's like an actual hinge there, but whatever. All right, so pop that off. Let's go ahead and give him a regular arm now. Make a more classic Hordak. What's going on? There it is. All right, so now he's a little more symmetrical. Interestingly, he comes with armbands for both of his biceps with the natural arms, whereas the character normally only has the one. So, I mean, just consider it a freebie, and if you don't like it, you don't think it's accurate, you could always take that extra one off. I think it's cool. I actually like the fact that he has two. Makes him look a little more fleshed out and complete. So you can see by default he has two closed fists, which are pretty cool. But we want to have him hold his accessories. You want to remove those. So we'll take this one off. This gives him a pointing hand, or maybe even like a trigger finger hand, which is really perfect for the crossbow. So make sure that's in there real good. All the way in there? I think it is. Now it's in there. All right. So you can have him, pointing, monologuing, doing all sorts of cool evil guy stuff. Now this one, this hand is a regular weapon holding hand, and it's pretty much the only hand that can actually hold his shield. And I'm going to do with this like I did with the He-Man and his weapon holding hand. So you actually want to put the shield strap in the hand first, and then attach the hand to the wrist, because with the fingers as closed as they are, it just really doesn't work to slide on the arm and then try to get inside the fingers. I mean, it might be doable, but you're going to be bending a lot. So I would recommend doing it that way. And the shield is pretty cool. Like I said, I think it's supposed to be kind of an homage or a repurposing of that like vintage gargoyle design, which was, pretty goofy looking. It does look more like some kind of accessory than an actual creature. Now, Classics actually did right by that thing and made it like a fully fleshed out little bat creature. But I guess for Masterverse, they decided to go another way and turn that design into a shield. Of course, I might also just be looking too far into it, because this is also just the regular Horde symbol, like you can see on his chest, so could just be nothing. For me, it's just the color. Like, it is the exact same color as that gargoyle thing, so maybe I'm looking into nothing, who knows. I like to think that they repurposed it. All right, now we get the crossbow. Put in his little trigger finger hand here. Just kind of snap it on the wrist, a lot like the old toy. There's no actual trigger for him to hold on to, so it's more symbolic than anything. But he can wield it, and it looks a lot better than the old ones. Like, so much better. It actually looks functional, and like it does something. So, yeah, I really like this. And I'm not sure if I prefer like the cannon arm with the blast effect, or if I prefer him being more traditionally armed with more medieval style weapons. They're both really cool in their own right, and it does give you a lot of display options for, whatever your preferred look for Hordak is. Here's a group shot with the Origins Hordak toy. This is specifically the PowerCon exclusive one that utilizes the cartoon colors and gives him his own special cannon arm. And I will say, I very much prefer this new Masterverse version over the Origins or Vintage Hordak. Hordak has a very cool base design, but those vintage proportions really just don't do him a lot of justice. Like, it just makes him look overly cartoony and gives him this really big head. Plus, like I said, the old way of doing his head is that this collar piece is just part of the head sculpt, and it just moves with the head, which looks really weird and doesn't make any sense. So I very much prefer this version. Like, it takes all the silliness out of his design and just makes him look like a genuinely dangerous character. So I really love it. Plus, as I mentioned, the crossbow's been massively improved. You have this useless piece of junk thing right here that doesn't actually do anything, right? It's spring-loaded, and it just makes like the head of the crossbow just like lurch forward a fraction of an inch, and it's like the stupidest thing ever. So this is so much cooler. It actually looks like it fires energy like out of the little dragon mouth and stuff. Here's that gargoyle companion, in case you guys don't know what that looks like. And you can see it looks a lot like the Horde symbol. So, this shield that I mentioned, it could be based on that, or it could just be the Horde symbol. I don't know. But I think, not including it in a way to where it looks like this silly thing was a good idea. If they are going to include it, potentially with like a black and red and gray release, they need to make it like a fully fledged creature like the Classics version did. Because having it act as some weird like arm accessory just really isn't it. The other thing I want to point out is the difference between a soft goods cape and a plastic or rubber cape. Look how much nicer this looks. Like the rubber cape, it's overly loud, it's completely stiff, it doesn't flow. It's not even molded in a dynamic way, it's just like hanging down. This, I mean, you can do so much with this and it looks so much better. You know, if you got like some wires or something, you can, you know, get the cape held up in certain positions for like photography and stuff. I'm just really a fan of this. I think this guy is an improvement in every way possible. Like he takes the few things I don't like about the old Hordak design and just makes them all better. So yeah, I mean, I'm not knocking the Origins toy because it is meant to capture a certain aesthetic and is meant to look like a toy from the 1980s. And it's fine for what it is, but this guy just blows it out of the water. Like nothing was sacrificed in the transition here. Here's a quick shot of Hordak alongside the original good guy of MOTU, He-Man himself, because it is important to remember that before Hordak was the main villain of She-Ra and Princess Power, he was a MOTU villain. So, you know, seeing these two facing off is especially satisfying. And if you're not somebody who's interested in She-Ra and, you know, her original characters, this guy still is 100% worth picking up for your MOTU collection. And he looks truly formidable next to He-Man. He isn't just some lackey, some henchman that He-Man's going to toss around. He is Hordak, right? He is a big deal. So I'm a fan of this. Interestingly, he's actually a fair bit shorter than He-Man is, and I think it's the boots. If you look at the boot pieces, the way they're cut, I think his are just shorter than the He-Man boots. So even though the legs are like the same length and everything, it changes everything. Actually, you know, now that I think about it, I was saying that he uses like all the He-Man limbs, right? He definitely does not use the legs. His legs are a lot slimmer than He-Man's. Look at that. The arms appear to be the same. But yeah, the legs are a different story. He has thinner legs than He-Man. So the legs themselves may in fact be a different length, not just the boot cut. So that's interesting. You'd think they'd want to make Hordak a little bit taller, you know, make him look a little more imposing, but I mean, it is what it is. I think He-Man's supposed to be a little bit taller than him anyway, because he's just such a giant of a man. And then here, of course, we have to pair Hordak against his true nemesis, the one who's destined most likely to bring about his end. And this is She-Ra, sister of He-Man. So if you are somebody who does like She-Ra, and you like the Princess of Power cartoon, or that's like the old one or the new one, then you definitely want to pick both of these up. And the good news is that they're both concurrently available. They're two deluxes coming from the same wave. So, you know, it's kind of like how a Master of the Universe line will always start off with a He-Man and Skeletor, because you always have to have the He-Man and Skeletor. Well, now that they're breaking into Princess of Power, they're giving you your quintessential good and bad characters. You get your She-Ra and your Hordak. And they work so well together. And unlike He-Man, She-Ra ends up being smaller than Hordak, which truly paints her as like this underdog hero. Not that she's not incredibly powerful, but it does kind of help sell the idea that she is the leader of a rebellion, right? Like in her world on Etheria, Hordak already won. Like he conquered it. And She-Ra is now like the one thing standing between him and like total domination of Etheria. So, you know, there is kind of this David and Goliath aspect to them, which is interesting because I'm pretty sure She-Ra is physically stronger than Hordak, but he also has, you know, other powers and a massive empire at his disposal to where the odds are still kind of stacked against her. And I like that, right? I like a hero story where the hero doesn't just steamroll everyone all the time, which is a fair criticism of He-Man, honestly. Like, sometimes he's just a little too powerful and you want him to maybe feel like there's some more stakes involved. And this completes our look at the all-new Masterverse Hordak. I think this is an absolutely fantastic figure. Like, I like everything about it. The parts all look good, the head sculpt is amazing. I love the amount of accessories he comes with. I love the fact that you can really just customize him. You know, if you want to give him a beam cannon arm, a claw arm, give him his crossbow, his shield, you know, both. You have a lot of options here. And then, you know, everything looks great on him. The hood being a separate piece from the head is really nice. I mean, I would expect no less for Masterverse, but you know, I am happy they actually did it and didn't just make the head, you know, be attached directly to the hood. And I love the cape. The cape looks fantastic. It's very big. It's got the nice, you know, triangular cuts on the bottom, got a nice sheen to it. It just helps him look very regal and makes him look like a very important character, right? Like he's clearly some sort of a faction leader. And I think that's awesome. I think they really knocked it out of the park with this Hordak. I think even if you're not a She-Ra person, you're going to want to pick this guy up for your MOTU collection. So he really serves two purposes, really three. He could be, you know, one or the other, or he could be kind of the link that links everything together, you know what I mean? So yeah, really impressed with this guy. I do hope that we eventually get like your black and gray and red version, your toy colors version, just because to me that particular color scheme is a little more iconic. But I know, you know, probably most people out there know Hordak from the shows, so they may prefer this version, which is fine. It looks very good. Like, I'm not normally crazy about the color scheme, but they really pulled it off here, so yeah, I think it's fantastic. Even if we don't get a toy colors version, I'm still pretty satisfied with this guy. And I think if you go out of your way to pick him up for the about $30 or so he retails for, I think you will be too, because he is just one of the best Masterverse figures I've ever handled. Of course, that is just how I feel about Hordak, so now I want to know what you all think of this toy. Do you find this figure to be a really good representation of the character? Did he, you know, kind of tick all the boxes for you? Do you prefer the cartoon color scheme, or would you have preferred the toy colors one? Or is this maybe not for you? Maybe because it's not the toy colors one, maybe you just don't care about Hordak, or maybe you don't like the way this toy came out. Any and all feedback, as always, is welcome in that comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. And thank you for joining me for this look at the brand new Masters of the Universe Masterverse Hordak from Princess of Power. And with all that said, I will see you next time.